Hi, Professor Martin and class. This was a fun project for me. I enjoyed it a lot. I found the story of the Nacerima to be both humorous at some points and kind of convicting at other points. Even though it was written back in the 1950s, I think it still says something about the American culture today. I believe that Minner sets us up in the beginning of this paper by referring to the Nacerima tribe as being unusual. This is meant to pique our interest, first of all, and then to throw us off from the fact that Nacarema is America spelled backwards. And while I was reading Minner's observations about the body ritual of the Nacarema, I was reminded of the Star Trek movie Insurrection, directed by Jonathan Frakes in 1998. I'm a big fan of all things Star Trek and Star Wars, and I find a lot of similarities in real life. I guess it's art following life. Anyway, part of the movie Insurrection focuses in on the Federation observing a culture of people called the Naboo. The Federation used a practice called the duck blind, which is an invisible observation station used to get intelligence on a society before they made first contact. This practice was used to determine whether the culture was ready to have a relationship with a warp drive society. I can picture Minner in such a place as he makes his observations about this unique culture. Obviously, this is an allegory, but it sets up a great picture on how society might be observed by an alien culture. An American practice that might seem to be unusual to another culture is the practice of going to church on Sunday. Now, I realize that we are talking about a microculture within the greater American society, but it is important because of the number of people that actually go to church, a mosque, or a synagogue in America. If an alien culture were to observe America, say, in the decades before the Second World War, they would see the vast majority of American people making the effort to go to church on a weekly basis. Part of this phenomena, if I could use that word, is the thought that America was founded on Judeo Christian values and that belonging to a church was an expression of those values. The Liberty Council, which is a Christian think tank in Orlando, Florida, published a paper in 2019 stating that Thomas Jefferson said that the Declaration of Independence reflected the American mind. If that is true, then the practice of going to church on a weekly basis was the result of an American worldview and was popular and encouraged in society. For many years, church was the focal point for communities to meet with and fellowship with neighbors. The church was the center of the community. Families went to church, and up until recently, most families went to church right in their own communities. And they may have even walked to church. Now, it's nothing for a family these days to travel 30, 40, 50, maybe even 60 miles or 60 minutes to go to a church. This is due to the culture changing from into a commuter-oriented society, which also may reflect a decline in neighborhoods. Unfortunately, church attendance has been on the decline over the last 6 decades. According to a Gallup poll taken in 2021, U.S. church membership has declined from 73% in 1937 to 49% in 2020. This is a tremendous shift in worldview practice. The analysis of decline in church membership is derived from 3 year totals. One taken from 1998 to 2000, which logged in at 69%. Another being 2008 to 2010, which was down to 62%. And then the last one, and get this, the last one being 2018 to 2020, dropped a whopping 23% to 49%. The totals in these 3 year periods are derived from data gathered from over 6,000 adults in the U.S. Now, much of that decline is attributed to a lack of religious affiliation, which is a definite change of worldview. But the decline has been accelerated by the COVID-19 pandemic. Churches have had to close in-person operations for a time. Most churches were able to adapt due to the use of technology to continue their ministries. Others were not able to make the shift to the use of technology and remain closed to this day. Those that have moved to some kind of streaming service for their weekly ministries, whether it be Zoom, Facebook Live, or YouTube, were able to keep going, and some even thrived and grew both in attendance and finances, making this technology an exciting breakthrough for ministry. In a survey taken by the National COVID-19 Church Attendance Project, or the NAACP, in 2021, online attendance has increased dramatically, with the online to in-person ratio starting at 1 to 7 in January 2020, and then going to 1 to 2 being remote in April of 2021. That means that 50% of churches' congregations are viewing services online instead of attending church in person. So the question remains, is this change beneficial or detrimental to society as a whole? As the COVID mandates have started to loosen up in many localities, people have slowly begun to come back to in person attendance, but not everyone. Many have remained at home while they checked in on the streaming services in their church. While this has enabled people to see a church, uh, maybe from across the country or even across the globe, which is an amazing ability, and it's a tremendous blessing for shut ins, it has created another issue that I, as a pastor, would have to say has become a detriment to the American society. The steep decline in church attendance started before the pandemic hit. COVID-19 didn't start it, but it revealed an issue that's been festering for a while. I believe it pulled the lid off a lackadaisical attitude towards the things of God that have been increasing through the years. Where churchgoers once had a respect for God in church, which was revealed in the way that they prepared for church, getting dressed up in their Sunday best, and how they behaved in church with a reverence and awe for the presence of God, this has now changed into watching church in our living rooms, in our pajamas, or even staying in bed while we watch the service on our device, rather than actually participating in and worshiping together with the faithful. We no longer need to put in the effort to get ready for church as a part of our worship of God. I'm reminded of what was said of Jesus in the Gospel of John, chapter 2, verse 17, in the New American Standard Version. It said that zeal for your house had consumed him. I wonder what an outside observer might say about us. Possibly they may say, zeal for God's house has left them. That would be a terrible indictment for our wonderful American culture. Thanks for watching this and listening to it. I hope you enjoyed it, and blessings to you.